Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hey, what is up guys? Horror Nights Fan 13 here, and today I am doing a top 10 maze countdown video. This was suggested by an awesome guy, Ethan HHNman1 on Twitter. Really cool dude. Talked to him, and you know, I was saying like, hey, I have a bunch of videos coming your way real soon, and then he said, why not do a top 10 maze countdown? So I said, you know, it's a really good idea. I haven't done one of those, so I think I'm gonna do one. Hope you're all excited. So yeah, I'm counting down my top 10 mazes. I started attending the event in 2012, so from 2012, 2013, 14, 15, and 16. Should average to around 2 mazes per year, right? Well, you'll find out. But before I get into it, please, as always, show your support, like the video if you like it, comment what you think about, you know, my top 10 list, and comment your own top 10 list. Why not? It'd be cool to go through and read all your top 10 lists. I read all my comments, by the way. And subscribe if you want to keep up with further updating. I've, you know, a lot of content, a lot of good Halloween Horror Nights stuff. Just follow social media at HHNFan13 on Twitter and at Horror Nights Fan 13 on Instagram. Both of those you get a follow back on just as a thank you for your support to my channel. And let's get into the video. Okay, so my top 10 mazes. Let's start it off at number 10 with Black Sabbath 13-3D. From Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood 2013. I know a lot of people, like, they have a lot of gripe with the Black Sabbath maze. They said it's not scary, it reuses a bunch of scenes from Alice Cooper, and yes, it does. I still loved the maze. It was only my second year attending, so I wasn't super, like, Halloween Horror Nights pretentious-y with the mazes, but I still loved it. Black Sabbath at the time was my all-time favorite band. It was actually the maze that really got me into them. Like the announcement video would play God Is Dead, and I heard that and I'm like, what is this? And then I went through the maze and I'm like, and that was from my first trip. I went to the maze and realized like I love all of this. And then I went for closing night in 2013, and I loved it even more because I knew the music, I knew what was going on in the maze, I knew what each room represented, and it was just beyond cool to see my favorite band's music brought to life, and it really did influence me a lot because it really got me into heavy metal, and you know, it kind of got me further down the rabbit hole because as I kept going, I kept wanting heavier and heavier, and now I'm into Islander and Slipknot, so it got real heavy real quick. Moving on to number 9. Number 9 comes from 2015. This maze is Crimson Peak, Maze of Madness. Now, I have still yet to see Crimson Peak. I've really been slacking. I've kind of wanted to see it, and I kind of haven't wanted to see it, but, you know, it was a really solid maze. I thought the scenery was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful mazes I've seen, probably the most beautiful since La Llorona from 2012. That facade coming into the maze, not when you're outside, but the facade inside of the maze with the huge mansion, it was amazing. The scares were actually really good. A lot of the technical detail of this maze was just phenomenal, and Guillermo del Toro really having like a huge hand in the design of the maze really helped it out, and I thought it was a really good maze. So let's move on to number 8. Number 8 also comes from 2015. This maze is Insidious, Return to the Further. Now, a lot of people would probably put this maze a lot higher. You know, I loved this maze. Don't get me wrong. I love every single maze that is on this list. And I thought Insidious Return to the Further was amazing. It was one of the best mazes of that year. You know, I'm just gonna throw a little spoiler right now, but Halloween Michael Myers Comes Home was my favorite of that year. So Insidious Return to the Further, it comes second to Halloween Michael Myers Comes Home. It was still amazing. I love the Insidious franchise, so seeing the scenes from Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 all together was awesome. In 2013, when Insidious was first there, I had never seen Insidious. I had heard of it, but I'd never seen it. I just knew that it was going to be a haunted house, and I wasn't super obsessed with the event to the point where I would watch all the movies in preparation, but now I do. But yeah, it was really awesome to see the movies that I had actually come to love come to life in this house, and it was really, really scary. Yeah, So let's move on to number 7, that being Alice Cooper Goes to Hell 3D. This was actually my first maze ever of Halloween Horror Nights. So, I mean, you know, if people hate the 3D mazes, yeah, I understand that. I've got 2 of them on my list just because they were so cool and they were just awesome for me. But Alice Cooper Goes to Hell 3D definitely holds a special place in my heart. It was the first maze I had gone through. It was, at that time, it was probably my favorite maze from 2012 just because I loved, like, the hell imagery and the demonic imagery and all of the demonic scares, characters, all that stuff. I thought it was just way cool. And actually this earned a spot much higher up on my list because about 2 months ago I did a film project, and this film project was a music video. It was not for the actual band, but it was, you know, a song written by the band Islander. It was called Devil Red, and long story short, the concept of this music video was entirely, I was able to do it purely because of Alice Cooper Goes to Hell 3D. I was able to, you know, come up with a cool concept and cool characters because of this maze's influence on me. And that was just super, super cool. Moving on to number 6. Also from 2012. La Llorona, La Cazadora de Niños. So La Llorona, the Child Hunter. This maze was amazing. The scenic was beautiful. It was absolutely terrifying. All the puppets at the end freaked me out. The story behind this maze was just so cool, and it was just a massive improvement from the videos that I had seen of 2011's maze. Yeah, it was just awesome. Alright, number 5 goes to another Mexican folklore legends maze, and you know, there's only one other one, El Cucuy, the Boogeyman from 2013. This was probably my favorite maze from 2013. It was just so good. The story behind it was amazing. It felt a little short to me, but I still thought it was awesome. The scenes were so cool. I loved the characters. I loved how El Cucuy was like a Freddy, like a Mexican Freddy. That's pretty much what he was. Freddy is the boogeyman, and he can shapeshift into stuff. That was El Cucuy. El Cucuy was, you know, the boogeyman, and he can shapeshift into stuff. The only thing I was really kind of disappointed with in the maze is that there was like a picture floating around the internet of the finale. It would be like a gigantic puppet, like the La Llorona puppet. But that got cut in the maze due to needing to increase budget, most likely for another more popular maze, such as The Walking Dead. Oh well. Alright, getting into the top 4. This is when 2016 comes into play. You notice 2016 hasn't been in there. So, number 4 from 2016 is Freddy vs. Jason, the highest rated maze from 2016. I thought this maze was absolutely awesome. It was tied for my number 2 that year. It was incredible. The scenic was beautiful. The scares were just on point every single time. And the original storyline behind it was just so cool. Like, you can make a movie entirely based off of that maze rather than a maze based off of the movie, and it would be so much more successful than the Freddy vs. Jason movie, because that maze was awesome, and I highly commend John with that. Plus, I loved the Wes Craven tribute on the facade. That was just that needed to be done. Alright, top 3. Number 3 goes to Krampus from 2016. Krampus, Mike Dougherty's movie. It was awesome. I thought the facade was hands down the best last year. It was so cool. They just kept adding and adding and adding. They just like, hey, let's put lights on it. Let's put Krampus on the roof. Let's put a bunch of snow out front. Let's put the van out. Let's put the delivery man out. Let's go throw some snowmans there. It just kept going and going and going. And it always looked amazing. The visual effects on the facade were so cool. The characters inside of the maze were just awesome. They looked great. Krampus was everywhere and he looked really good. I genuinely got a few scares, especially from the roof Krampus. He got me a few times. I love the gingerbread man scene. I just gotta flat out say I love the gingerbread man scene. It was super duper cool to just see all those guys like causing havoc inside of the kitchen. It was awesome. The only disappointing thing about this maze was that the finale was a tad underwhelming. Just walking through like a regular you know, Christmas Day thing, and then Krampus jumps out at you. That's it. It was kind of... I felt like we should have gone through Krampus's lair at the end, but you know, I'm not the designer, John is. If that's what he wanted for the finale, then yeah, okay, I get it. Just a tad disappointing. Moving on to number 2. Number 2 is Halloween, Michael Myers Comes Home from 2015. This maze was my all-time favorite maze from 2015. You know, before 2016 happened, it was my all-time favorite maze. I thought it was just so cool. I love the original Halloween movie, and I was so excited to go through this maze. I thought the scenes were amazing. The scares were... oh, they were phenomenal. I actually got the opportunity to go through this maze completely alone in 2015. I went for the after party on the first night of the after party, and it was... like, the park was at 1/4 capacity. It was so few people there. So I just got to go in that maze alone, and it was absolutely terrifying because every single scare was coming straight for me. And I freaked out. I thought it was a really cool maze, and I loved the ending with all the Michael Myers in the mirror maze. And I actually had a really cool experience in there. I was there on the night that John Murdy decided to go into that maze and scare people. And I was one of the people that he scared, and it was super cool to see John Murdy in action, not knowing it was him, and then finding out later on, like, yeah, that was John Murdy that scared us, because he genuinely scared me. So yeah, that was really cool. And my number 1 maze of all time, it's missing from the list. You know exactly what it is. I've said it so many times, but let's do an unnecessary drum roll. The Exorcist from 2016. That maze was terrifying. The Exorcist is one of my favorite horror movies. Still not all the way at the top. It goes American Werewolf in London, The Shining, Halloween, The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw, or Nightmare on Elm Street, then Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've got 6 all-time favorites. But yeah, The Exorcist is one of my favorites, and that maze did it so much justice. The animatronics were amazing. It was so freaking scary. Like, that movie has always freaked me out, and the maze just put me on edge even more than the movie does. I love that it carried over the subliminal imagery from the movie, where you'd see flashes of Pazuzu everywhere. The scenic reenactments were actually really cool. I loved the fact that they split up the scenic reenactments with the scaring scenes, have the scares strictly stick to the hallways, and have the scenic reenactments stay inside of the actual scenes from the movie. That just sold it for me, because that's kind of what the movie did. It freaked you out in parts that shouldn't really be that scary, and on the normal scary parts it was very, you know, just dramatic. And that's what this maze did. It replicated the movie perfectly. The only thing I really didn't like about this maze was the ending. I didn't like that we went to Iraq and we saw the Pazuzu statue. I thought that was a little out of place and goofy, but hey, it worked because I thought it was pretty good. And from the videos that I saw, Hollywood's Exorcist was hands down way better than Orlando's Exorcist. Just from the videos I've seen. I haven't seen the whole video of Orlando's Exorcist. I've only seen parts of it, and ours looked so much better. It looked so much more true to the actual film, and that was kind of what sold it for me as my number 1 maze of all time. Hoping this year it's going to be dethroned by The Shining, but you know, we'll find out soon. So I want to thank you all for watching. So please, as always, show your support, like the video if you like it, comment your own top 10 list, and subscribe to keep up with further updating. Like the video if you like it. Wait, I already said that. Follow social media at H10Fan13 on Twitter and at HorrorNightsFan13 on Instagram. You gotta follow back on both of those. I'm really rushing this because I see a red light that's saying battery dying, battery dying. So I've got to finish that up. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.